everyone. So when I was showing off my herbs in a recent video, I had somebody ask if I can show how I make tea with the herbs, and I thought that would be a really fun idea because I have come a very long way in my tea journey. I've been a tea drinker my whole life, also equally love coffee, but I definitely started with just water microwaved in the microwave and a tea bag that I maybe let sit for 2 minutes, dumped a whole bunch of sugar into it, and that's how I had my tea when I was younger. I slowly started to move towards boiling the water in a tea kettle, loose leaf tea, and not adding any other sugar at all and just enjoying the flavor of the tea. Then, was it 2 years ago, I think, is when I started growing herbs and making my own tea. My mind was just blown because even though loose leaf tea is absolutely delicious, it's even more delicious when it's the herbs that are very, very fresh from my garden, or maybe it's just the fact that they're from my garden that I'm telling myself it tastes better, even though it necessarily doesn't, but to me it does, and that's what matters. So I thought I would share with you how I make the tea. I'll actually go through and make a cup with you today, talk a little bit about the herbs that I like to use in my tea, and then also if you have any other recommendations for herb combinations or just herbs to try in a tea, let me know down below. So I have made a video, I think last year, probably around this time in winter, where I showed you how to make a different tea recipe, which was my chocolate mint tea, and that one is really good. So I will link that video down below, but chocolate mint is one of my favorite herbs to use in tea, especially during the winter time. So I'll use chocolate mint, I mix in some cacao powder, and then add in some oat milk. I usually do like to add a little splash of milk to, I don't know what the right word would be, like the sweeter teas, not the fruity teas, but the more, I guess, non-fruit flavored teas is what I like to add a splash of milk to. I've mentioned this before, I don't love the taste of just mint on its own, but chocolate mint is absolutely delicious. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix all of my herbs that say lemon on them together and see what happens, because I've never used all of these together. So I have, what do I have here? Lemon balm, which I've used probably the most in both tea and just infused it in some water during the summer months, and it was really good. I need to grow more of that plant next year. Lemon thyme, which I've cooked with a lot. I don't know if I've ever put it in a tea yet. And then lemongrass, which I just didn't love as much as the other lemon herbs that I had. So right now I'm not planning to grow lemongrass again next year. I don't think I'll make it through this probably in a year's time, but we'll see. But I'm gonna mix lemongrass, lemon thyme, and lemon balm together in today's video. How I like to store my herbs to use them either in cooking or tea is after I dry the herbs. So I usually just leave them to dry in the room. I could use the oven, which I did a lot more in 2021, but even though it dries them faster on the lowest setting in the oven, I kind of just like to leave them up here and forget about them, and then a few weeks later they're dry and ready to go. I also might get a dehydrator this year, but we'll kind of see about that. But I do store them again in these containers, and I store them as the whole leaves. I think that was a mistake, not necessarily a mistake, but something that I did differently before is I used to grind up my herbs and then store them that way. But then I learned that if you keep them whole and then grind them right before you're going to use them, that holds on to the flavor even more. So I do store them kind of as their whole leaf form, and then I don't grind them up until I'm ready to use them either in tea or cooking. And I just use my fingers unless I'm going to grind up a lot, and then I'll use like a little grinder that I think is supposed to be for coffee beans, but I use it for herbs, and I'm assuming that is fine. Now let's go over the equipment that I have. I don't have a whole lot. I do have a teapot, which we got as a wedding gift. So I really like this teapot a lot. I use it nearly every day. And then it does have here on the side like cups. It has milliliters too. I think you have to fill it up to at least 2 cups for it to work. And then on the base of it, you have like green tea, white tea oolong, French press, and then boil black tea. I usually do like the 200-degree temp, which is the French press. I don't know if that's the best temperature to heat it up to, but that's the temperature I like to use. So that is my teapot. Now, if I was going to be as efficient as possible, I would just fill this little tea infuser and put it in the cup and let it sit there. I used to do 10 minutes. Now I like to do 30 minutes, and I keep this covered so that it infuses and stays hot, just because even those additional minutes really does enhance the flavor. That's just something I started doing the last few months, waiting 30 minutes. But if I am, a little bit more impatient, I will try to at least let it steep for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, what I like to do, and I don't really know why, I think it just feels a little bit more like fancy and fun, is I like to use this French press. I've actually never used it for coffee. I've only ever used it for tea. So I like to just put all of the herbs in here. I'll pour the water into this. I'll put the lid back on. I'll let that infuse. I don't know if it's just that I like having the herbs directly in the water. I mean, they're in the water in the infuser, but there is a little bit of a barrier there. This is just also cute. So I like to see the color change of the tea, and then I just pour it into my cup. It does add an extra step of, I have to clean this whole thing instead of just a small infuser. But for me, it's fun, and I like to do it that way. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, as far as how much of the herbs to use, this is something I learned more from taking an herbal class online from Coursera. I take some classes from Coursera and some from Udemy. I think this one was Coursera. It was $10 for the herbalism course. Let me see if I can remember the name of it. I have my notes right here. I don't know if it was just called, it was called Herbalism for Everyone, and it was on Udemy. So ignore everything I just said. Herbalism for Everyone on Udemy. I will link it down below, the course that I took. It went a lot more in depth into the different things you can do with herbs, but specifically the one that I reference the most often is the instructions on how to make the infusion. So in my binder that I have right here with all of my notes, you want to use a 1/4 cup of dried herbs to 1 cup of water. So that's the ratio for dried herbs. And then you want to use a 1/2 cup if you're using fresh herbs to 1 cup of water. So sometimes in the summer, I'll make tea with fresh herbs, but I try to make it more with dried herbs just because more goes a long way. They have a more intense flavor. So I now, especially in the winter, am only making them with dried herbs. Now, technically, I think these are called infusions, not tea, or tisanes, not tea, because tea comes from a specific type of plant. Again, this is what I learned in the course, but for simplicity's sake, I refer to any herbs in water that I drink as tea, even if that is not technically the correct terminology to use. So yeah, I'm gonna do about a 1/4 cup of the herbs in the French press, and then I will add the boiling water after we get that going. So first, I'll go ahead and put the water on to boil, and then we'll get the herbs into the French press. The water is now boiling, so first I'm going to add in the lemon balm. And like I said, I'll go ahead and just crunch it up as I add it in there. Just using my fingers like that. Add in a little bit more. Next, I'm gonna add in some lemon thyme, and I'm not gonna do too much of this because I have like the least amount of lemon thyme compared to the other herbs. The leaves here are tiny, but again, I'm still going to crush it with my fingers as I add it in there. And don't worry if you get like big chunks or anything like that, because if you're using the infuser, obviously that'll all stay in the container. And then if you're using a French press like this, that's gonna get filtered out too, so you don't have to worry about that. Lastly, I'm going to add in some of the lemongrass. And this doesn't really crunch up easily, but I'm just gonna tear the pieces and throw them in there. Now I'm gonna add in the water. And cover with the lid. And then also what I like to do is just move this up and down a little bit to kind of mix around the herbs in the water. And now we wait 30 minutes for this to brew. Now you don't have to, again, wait 30 minutes. That's just something I started doing after taking the herbalism course and then realized that the flavor was even stronger and really liked it. One issue I've ran into with that though is in that 30 minutes completely forgetting that I made tea and then not realizing until 2 hours later when it's no longer hot, but still tastes pretty good. Actually tastes even stronger, but like a lukewarm version of the tea. So put it in for however long makes you happy, but definitely give 30 minutes a try if you've never tried it for that long before. My fingers also smell very delicious and like lemon, but this has just been so much more enjoyable for me in terms of tea, knowing that I've harvested these from my own garden. It's still a way to feel connected to the garden when it is too cold to actually be outside and gardening. Other herbs that I use regularly are definitely the pineapple sage. I'm trying to think what else I use on a regular basis. The majority of the time it's either the chocolate mint or my lemon balm. So those I know, I think I said 2 plants. I might even do 3 of each of those just because I know I use them so much, especially during the winter. Because using, you know, a quarter of a cup of herbs, sometimes I'll do a little bit less just to make them last a bit longer, but you can go through them pretty quickly if you only had 1 plant in your garden for that year. Or maybe I'll just get a larger pot and let them grow larger. I don't know. Still planning out all the things for my 2023 garden. But let me know if there are any other herb combinations that you think I should try. I know somebody mentioned using oregano, and I forgot if I said this in the other video, but something I kind of want to do is make a tea with every single herb, like the ones that I normally wouldn't necessarily think to use in tea, and see how they taste. Because even if something's savory, I think I would like the flavor of that as well. So we'll see. Let me know any other combinations or herbs that I should try, anything else that I should grow to have in my garden for this year. And then I will check back in with you in a little bit and we'll see how this tea tastes. Because again, I've never put all 3 of them together, but I imagine it'll be lemony and delicious. So we'll see. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes. You can tell that the color has definitely deepened to a nice golden yellow. So first, what I need to do is push this top part down. And there, I don't know if you can really tell, and I'm sorry, the lights are just like shining right into this, but there is a very fine mesh filter right here. So nothing that is below where I've pressed is going to come out into the tea. Now I need to pour it into this cup, but I think I need to hold the lid on this so it doesn't spill all over me. So 1 second and then we will reconvene. Well, I have overfilled it to try to fit everything in. And I don't know if you can see, but there still is steam coming from it. So even though it's been in there for 30 minutes, the French press does keep it pretty warm that whole time. Warm enough that there's still steam. So now, let's see if I burn my tongue when I sip this. Oh no, it's good temperature. So it's very good. I can definitely taste the lemon balm, and it does taste a little bit different with the lemon thyme in it. Like I can get a little hint of the thyme, but it's the lemon flavor in the lemon thyme that really does take over. So very delicious, very lemony, very earthy tasting. The lemongrass, I don't know if I can tell if that made a difference or not. I mean, it has to have made some sort of impact on it, but overall, tastes very good. I just don't know. Maybe I'll try just lemon balm and lemon thyme next and see if I can tell a difference. But overall, very good tea. I will usually, if we have some, throw in a slice of lemon, maybe a little squeeze of it too, but not too much because I do find that if I add lemon juice too much, it can definitely overpower the herbal flavor. And the first time I'm trying any sort of tea combination on its own, I do like to just do it right as is without adding anything extra. But that is how I make my tea. I would say I make tea for my own herbs probably 3 times a week, and I do still have way more loose leaf tea than I need, so I'm trying to work my way through those as well. So I probably do like 1 day with my herbs, 1 day with a loose leaf tea blend. If you are in the market for loose leaf teas, I do have some David's tea. I actually have a David's tea advent calendar right now that came in the middle of January, so I'm working my way through that. I also get some from Rare Tea Cellar, which is local to Chicago. So if you're in the Chicago area, they might just ship anywhere too, but those are very good. I first tried those at one of the afternoon teas we went to. So Rare Tea Cellar, and then also the Roof Crop, which is an organization or a company in Chicago that gardens on a bunch of rooftops. They make honey and they make a few, I think they actually call them tisanes instead of tea as well. So Roof Crop is also a great place to order from, especially if you are local. So yeah, I think that is everything for today. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.